Good day, fish tankers. I hope you're all doing well and our finny friends are swimming in your tanks. Now today I'm going to do another list of 10, not a top 10 list of top 10 in a certain subject or certain application. I'm going to name 10 of my favorite fish for specific sort of aquariums or for specific goals that you might have in the aquarium hobby. Because as you know, besides little Lulu dozing off here in the little patch of sun by my feet in a basket, my fish, besides my life partner as well, are some of my favorite things. So if you want to hear about 10 fish that works very well in certain kind of setups or applications, then stick around. Okay, fish tankers, let's start with number one. As I've said, it's in no particular order, it's by whatever category, but let's start with the best beginner fish. I don't think the best beginner fish is guppies. I don't think it is a betta, and I definitely don't think it's goldfish. If you've watched this channel, you'll probably know my number one beginner's fish is the white cloud mountain minnow. These are small little fish. They dubbed the poor man's neon tetra, and you can see why they've got this little glowing gold stripe. You get them in the original dark color, and you also get them in a gold variety. Keep them in a little group of at least 6, and they will make a sort of a loose shoal. They're very, very hardy fish. They don't even need a heater. They can be in most houses room temperature, and they'll be fine in cooler water. I even kept them with goldfish, and they'll also tolerate the warmer temperatures. My temperatures get up to 29 degrees, even 30 degrees for short periods in the summer, and the white clouds were fine with that. Give them at least a 10-gallon tank. They need a tank that's more lengthwise, because they swim up and down, not bottom to top so much. So I would say give them at least a 10-gallon tank or larger. I've seen them capped in 5-gallon tanks and even 3.5-gallon tanks, but they need a bit of swimming space even though they are small fish. But with white cloud mountain minnows, if you're a beginner, you do the basics right, you can't go wrong at all. Now, a lot of beginners want to experience a bit of breeding, have a bit of baby fish, and the easiest for that are live bearers. So number 2 will be my favorite live bearer. Now keep in mind, if you're watching from the US or the UK, there's a lot of things here that's on the banned species list. So we don't really have goodeids and things like that, all those rare live bearers that you guys overseas have. But I won't go for guppies. My favorite live bearer from a limited choice we have is the humble platy. I like platies, just their shape, their variety of color. They're not as chasey with the females, quite as bad as the guppies. And if you see to it that you have a 10-gallon tank, but I would say make it a bit bigger. If you have a 40-gallon or a 3-foot tank, or at least a 20-gallon eye with platies in it, it leaves some room for babies that will appear, as long as there's enough hiding spaces and plants in there. And always remember, I would say keep at least 3 females with every male. That's my ratio for live bearers, a bit more than a 2-to-1 ratio that you usually hear. And if you have soft water, make sure you buffer it so that the pH stays above 7. There needs to be a little hardness. I don't like acidic water. So if you have soft acidic water like I do, put some crushed coral in your substrate, or buffer it with any proprietary product that you get out there, like alkalinity buffer and such. So that's my favorite live bearer. Moving on, the planted tanks are all the rage, and let's say you're more of a planted tank guy. I'm a planted tank guy, but the fish is still slightly more than 50% the focus. But let's say you're an aquascaper, and it's about the scape, it's about the plants, and you don't want the fish to detract from the plants. I don't think you can go better than a very large group of black neon tetras. They look fantastic in a planted setup. They're very hardy, but you need them in numbers. Get as many as you can that you can safely fit in that tank that it's big enough for, and a big shoal of black neon tetras and nothing else in a scape looks terrific. I remember in my days of managing a pet shop, I always used to have 6 or so, a couple of black neon tetras hanging around in my tank, because the owner always said, take them home with you, they don't sell. They don't sell on a bare dealer's tank, but if you see them in the scape, you can't go wrong with a black neon tetra. Right, then still in the planted theme, number 4, the best algae eater. Now, it's a tricky one, because in my experience, tell me in the comment section if you have one that eats all kinds of algae. In my experience, I couldn't find an algae eater yet that eats everything. Nereid snails will eat black, green spot algae. Siamese algae eater, but they leave us irritating little eggs around the tank. Siamese algae eaters will decimate blackbeard algae, but they grow big. And then bristlenose plecos are great, but they will munch on your Amazon swords and your broadleaf plants very often. So my favorite algae eater, this won't take care of your hair algae problem, but all the diatom algae, that plaque-like algae that you often get in a newish tank, they will take care of that, and that is the Otto cichlids. Now, I love the Ottos. Keep them in a small group. You know, I say small and not huge because sometimes they run out of food. And make sure that when there's no more algae, you do feed them specifically with algae wafers and maybe some blanched baby marrow or green beans or spinach. But the Otto cichlids to me is a great little fish. They are the most peaceful fish around, and they just help to keep your plants clean. So that would be my number one algae eater. Now, if we're looking at shoaling fish, you want fish to stay in a tight group and shoal around the tank. You get many fish that want to be in groups, but want to be in shoals, but they shoal loosely. There's like 4 this side and then another 3 that side, and then there's always that one that sort of stays on his own somewhere behind a plant in the corner. If you want fish that shoal tightly, I would go for rummy nose tetras. They need a bit of a bigger tank, I think, than you would think according to their size. I would like to see them in at least a 3-foot tank, you know, a 40 gallon or a 55, because they swim from the one side of a tank to the other side of a tank. In my big 75-ish gallon tank, I can't tell you exactly how many fish are in there, but I can tell you there's 7 rummy noses, because they're always together and always moving up and down in the tank. So if you want something that gives you that tight shoal, get as big a number of rummy nose tetras as that your tank can safely handle. And you can't go wrong if you want that tight shoaling effect. Rummy noses, waiver stuff. Just make sure your water is not too hard or too alkaline. It'll be fine up until about 7.5, but it mustn't be in the 8. So that is the rummy nose tetras. And number 6, my favorite nano fish. Now I've got to have readers these days, so chili rasboras for me is just a bit too small. I sit there squinting in front of a tank to see the fish. So that's not really for me. But if I have to pick my best nano fish, and nano fish we go smaller than a standard neon tetra, then I would say the celestial pearl danio or the galaxy rasbora. I've got these 2 common names. They are great little fish. They're very, very lively. I even had them breed in this cube over here. And of course a fry with a betta, and they didn't survive. But if I had to do it again, I'll give them a tank on their own or with other nano species. Maybe some Ottos will be fine. But celestial pearl danios, they're lively. Give them enough cover and give them enough numbers. Otherwise, they're very shy. But they look like little baby trout. And I think that is a great nano fish to have. Then moving on from nano fish to cichlids. Now, the cichlids, it's sort of a specialized thing. Some like them, some don't. And people forget that angelfish and discus are also cichlids. But for me, I like the dwarf cichlids, and I like apistogramma. It suits my soft acidic water that I already have. I have apistogramma macmasteri, but really any of them, you know, apistogramma agassizii or apistogramma cacatoides. They're small fish. You can keep them, I would say, in a 12 gallon, a 2-foot tank, just to give a female a bit space. As a pair on their own, you'll see that cichlid parental care and breeding behavior, or even just like what I do in my big tank, there is a macmasteri male that's there, just sort of one of several centerpiece fishes actually, but he does very well there, and it's interesting behavior, nice splash of color, and they're not as aggressive as these big cichlids. They can go in a community setup. Until they breed, it can become a little bit of a problem. But if you just have a single one in a community setup, the male's more colorful, so that's probably what you're going to go for. A very nice fish for apistogramma dwarf cichlids. That is cichlids. And moving on from cichlids, they're often a very nice wet pet. But let's, at number 8, what is my favorite wet pet? Now people keep flower horns and things like that, and bettas are a nice wet pet, but you know, they've been, so much has been said about them. Let's go for something else. And as a wet pet, what about the pea puffer? You know, they don't need big tanks. I've got a 5 gallon that I've got 3 pea puffers in. People will tell you they need more space, but they're all females, and it works out very well like that. Otherwise, I would say If there's males involved, get at least about a 2-foot tank, 15 gallons, because the males can get aggressive, or else just have females like I do, or just have a single one in a small tank. But I tend to think a small group, a few females. And keep in mind, they're not going to eat flake food. Some people have got them on vibrobites. I haven't been able to do it. So they're going to eat a bit of bloodworm and brine shrimp and maybe some live baby brine if you have it. They love worms. So you're going to have to feed them a little bit more specialized, but it's easy to manage in the fridge and so on. I just have little pieces that I break off in a jar and I feed it for a few days and then I start again. But the pea puffer has got great personality with those eyes that move up and down and their feeding behavior. That is a really nice little wet pet that can sit right there on your desk. Now, going on from the wet pets, number 9, favorite big fish. Note that I say big fish, not monster fish. Now, I'll do a video about monster fish, but I think it's out of the scope of most of us to keep these massive aquariums for monster fish or tropical pools. Great if you can do that. So I'm just going to go for big fish, and it's already a big fish. I think it's, if I'm going to say it's a monster fish, I think it's just below it. And that's, of course, for Oscar. I kept them way back in the day. I really would love to keep them again. But for Oscars, I would say at least, I think it's 125 gallon. And that would be, I would say, a tank that's 1.5 meters, that's 5 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot. That's the sweet spot for a pair of Oscars. If you're going to keep them with other fish, go for a 6-foot tank. Go bigger, 180 gallon or something like that, and big filtration because they're messy, but they really are water dogs. They're not too fussy as long as you have the filtration and the size of tank to keep them happy. They're very personable. Back in the day when I used to keep Oscars, it was in my apartment and I walked through the front, past the front window, they'd see me and they'd go to the front of the tank, they'd recognize me. And funnily enough, I could differentiate between people as well. When I had a mate of mine go in with me in a flat, they'll immediately see there's somebody there and they'll go sit at the back until they think, okay, it's fine, when they'll come out. And when I had somebody feeding my fish, they also remarked that the fish won't react like that, splash all around when they see him. It took a while for the fish to get used to him. So an Oscar, if you want a water dog, can't go wrong with that. Just give him enough space. And now at number 10, we're going to end with the best color, the most colorful fish that you can have in the freshwater hobby. I'm going to go for the cardinal tetra. It's one of the few freshwater fish that rival the marine fish in colors. Just look at those colors. You cannot go wrong with a cardinal tetra. If you agree with me, please press that like button. If you don't agree with me but you like the content, also please press the like button. I would greatly appreciate it. And that's it from me, folks. Please share among your fishy groups. And we've hit 2,000 subscribers. That's positive. Thanks to guys that helped me, like Gijsbert with some of the footage that he sent, and Chandra who also sent footage, and I think Charles also sent footage at some point with his flower horn, and several more of you guys. It's greatly appreciated. And if you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. And until I see you again, take good care of those domestic denizens of the deep.